You're listening to the Savage Lovecast, Dan Savage's sex and relationship show for grown-ups. If you're under 18, get out of here, young'un.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
Greetings, people of the future. I am speaking to you from the past. Not the distant past, just a few days ago, but with the way we cycle through news cycles these days, I don't want to risk commenting on anything in the news right now because nothing in the news right now when I'm recording this is going to be in the news next week when you listen to it. But please know that the terrible thing in the news in the future, my future, your present, the thing you found out about yesterday and we're hoping I might comment on today, but I do not know about yet, trust that I think the terrible thing is just as terrible as you think the terrible thing is. The sexy thing in the news in the future, there's a good chance I think it's sexy too. I mean, sexy is subjective, but I do have broad tastes. And the big celebrity news in the future, which at the pace they're minting new celebrities these days is almost certainly about someone none of us had ever heard of a week ago. G-Flip, Peach, PRC, Amaray, Muna, someone we never heard of a week ago who has somehow in the last 5 days achieved icon status. Trust that I am just as scandalized or gagged or pressed or gagged and pressed and scandalized about the big celebrity news, about the big news celebrity as you are. All right, Nancy's going to toss in an extra call or two because no intro, because I'm on the road right now with the boyfriend, or depending on when you are listening in the future, I could be over an ocean somewhere, headed back to the husband. We do have tons of great calls for you this week. A man in the South keeps getting rejected by women after he has slept with them. He's wondering if it's because he's Jewish. A woman has started dating a man she knows will soon move away. She's had lots of successful STRs, short-term relationships, but never one where she knew the end date in advance. How can she stick the dismount? We also take a call from a woman who's already asked her husband's girlfriend to stop using so much perfume and now wants to ask her husband's girlfriend to switch shampoos. Can she make these demands? I issue a ruling on this week's Savage Lovecast. And joining us on the Magnum, Randy Rainbow returns. Randy Rainbow is here to talk about Randy's new book, here to talk about Randy's upcoming tour, and here to give sex advice to my listeners. All that coming up on today's show. All right, Nancy, let's get to that first call.
This episode of the Lovecast is brought to you by the good folks at Squarespace. They make it easy to build a beautiful website, blog, or online store. Head on over to squarespace.com/savage for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code SAVAGE to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
This episode is brought to you by Skims Men. Find super comfortable, super sexy underwear, socks, t-shirts, leggings, and more at skims.com. This episode is brought to you by OneSkin, the world's first skin longevity company. Keep your skin looking and acting younger for longer with OneSkin's topical supplements. And right now, get 15% off at oneskin.co with code LOVECAST.
Hey, Dan, this is a question about dating. I'm a liberal, straight male in Nashville, Tennessee. I've gone on a number of dates here, but they have been very hard to find because I'm not only liberal, but I'm also Jewish. And the few dates that I have gone on, they all seemingly went well to me. A lot of physical connection. Sometimes we slept together, talking about next dates, future plans. It just happened again last night. And then I woke up this morning and I was like, cool, I'm leaving the country for a few weeks. Do you want to hang out before I leave? This was after one of the best dates I've had in a very long time. And her response was, this is not the connection that I'm looking for. There have been a lot of people who said something similar to me. And I guess I'm asking, can I ask them why? I know that's a stupid question, but is it annoying or weird or like creepy for me to be like, hey, can you just tell me why? Because this is like the 5th time this has happened. And I just want to know if I'm doing something or if there's something about me. My gut says no, don't ask them. But my best friend is telling me that I should ask them. So I'm kind of wondering what you think.
When someone asks us, why don't you want to see me again? it can put us in an awkward position because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings by telling them the truth. So you say something vague and ambiguous and face savey, like it's not me, it's you, it's not the right time, or ... this is not the connection I am looking for. Or you, caller, are not the connection she was looking for. The problem, if you call and ask for a clarification, is that you're very likely to be perceived as that very common thing, the man who does not want to or isn't prepared to take no for an answer. And so, control for that. I feel like if you want to ask, and you can throw yourself at the mercy of this woman and say, hey, listen, I would love some feedback because I've heard roughly the same thing the last 5 times. I've been out on dates with women, and I'm just curious whether I'm doing something wrong, and then get out in front of her likely reaction, which is this man won't take no for an answer, and tell her explicitly, I am taking no for an answer. I'm not asking you for a second date. I'm just asking you for a little bit of feedback, a little bit of constructive criticism, and I promise you I will not argue with you. And then hold yourself to that. If she says something that you feel is unfair, or you feel that she may have misinterpreted your actions or your intentions, don't argue with her about it. You can ask for clarifications, you can ask for a little bit more information, but don't punish her for doing you the favor of leveling with you, of being truthful and straightforward with you by pushing back, by arguing. That said, if it is that you're Jewish in a place like Nashville, where most of the women aren't Jewish, you might not get a fully honest answer. I mean, you might get a fully honest answer. You might hear from some women who are like, hey, it was fun to fuck a Jew, but I don't want to marry a Jew. I can't marry a Jew. I can't bring a Jew home to mom and dad. That won't fly, but thank you for the dick. You might get that answer. But if that's what's going on with this woman and going on with the last 5 women, and sometimes people, have 5 at-bats and strike out 5 times in a row. That happens. Could just be coincidence. But if it is your identity, if it is your faith, you might not get the truth because somebody with filters, somebody with sense, even if they did make an exception for you, but they're not willing to date you, made an exception for dick for you, but aren't willing to date you, it's not going to make them feel very good about themselves to say that out loud, even if it is true. So you might not get the straight answer that you're hoping for or the clarity that you're seeking, but you might. And I think, you have every right to ask. You had sex with this person. You can ask them for some constructive feedback. Just control for the likely reaction that a woman is going to have when a man that she just said no to says, about that no, ... Going to be perceived as an unwillingness to take no for an answer. So lead with, I am taking no for an answer. Just asking, pleading, begging for a little constructive criticism, a little bit of feedback. So I'm obviously, I think, maybe doing something wrong. And I'm not asking for a second date. I'm not asking for a pity fuck. I'm asking for a little bit of honesty. I'm asking for an assist, not to get me back into your good graces, but to maybe set me up for success with the next woman I go on a date with if I am doing something wrong that I can fix.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. As you may have heard, the Hump Film Festival is in full swing, baby. It's a complicated event with ticket sales, showtimes, video, and newsletters. And listen, if we didn't have Squarespace handling the nuts and bolts of the website, we'd be losing our freaking minds. Here's a sample of the kind of thing they offer. Analytics. That's the analytics song. Measure your end-to-end online performance with powerful website and seller analytics. Get insights on top traffic sources, understand how your reach is growing, track sales metrics, and learn where to focus new engagement. It's all the data you need to scale your brand or business, fully integrated, clearly displayed. Videos collection. Upload video content, even special video content. Organize your video library and showcase what you got on beautiful video pages. You can even sell access to your video library by adding a paywall to your content. That's what we do. And you can do this too, but you got to get Squarespace. Squarespace also has powerful built-in SEO and commerce tools so you can quickly get a site up and running that supports your business. Head on over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/savage and use the offer code SAVAGE to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/savage and use the offer code SAVAGE.
I'm a 36-year-old queer woman in the Pacific Northwest. I'm calling to ask your advice on how to have a successful short-term relationship when you know the end date. So my story is I met this guy and we really hit it off. And after a month or so of dating, he dropped the bomb that he is moving back to his hometown on the East Coast, like soon, like in 3 to 4 months soon. We both feel like this relationship has potential, even had long-term potential, but he's going due to some urgent family things that came up, and he's absolutely going no matter what. And for context, there's no way I could move there to where he's going now or in the future. I've decided that I want to keep seeing him until he leaves, and I let him know that and he's feeling the same way. So my question here is, how do we do this successfully so that, like, one of us, like you talk about a lot, doesn't subconsciously blow up the end of this relationship, because that's how we think relationships have to end? And how do we enjoy the moment and these last few months that he's still here without just thinking about the impending move and the breakup that I'm assuming will happen? And I don't think that we'll have a long distance relationship either. So I've had a lot of short-term relationships, but I usually don't know the end date. So it's usually not clouded with that in mind. You know, usually they just kind of run their course, and some of them end well and some of them don't. But I'm pro short-term relationship, I guess is what I'm saying. And I want us to stick the dismount here. And I also want us to enjoy the next few months without just being sad the entire time that he's going to move.
How do you have a successful short-term relationship when you know the end date? Do we ever really know the end date? Look, you want to beware the engineered conflict, the feeling that, you know, if it has to end, you got to burn it down or blow it up to get out of it. But you also want to beware, I think, and in your case, I think you should be more concerned about the self-fulfilling prophecy. All right, that engineered conflict you've heard me talk about, feeling like if it has to end badly, and then creating that bad end, creating that conflict, seeking that conflict to make yourself feel better about the relationship ending. I think that's mostly a subconscious process. So the fact that you and this guy that you like, that you're seeing right now, the fact that you've talked about that as a phenomena, that is the thing that some people will do when faced with the end of a relationship that they might otherwise want to stay in. I feel like that's not really a risk for you. You've controlled for that risk because you've discussed it, because you're consciously aware of it. I think the greater risk for you in this circumstance is the self-fulfilling prophecy. You're telling yourself that this has to be a short-term relationship, and kudos to you that you want it to be a successful short-term relationship, but you're telling yourself it has to be a short-term relationship because why? Because he's moving away to see to urgent family business. Okay, that doesn't mean he's never moving back. And 2 months from now, you may feel very differently about following him across the country. Or 2 months from now, the relationship will have run its course, and hopefully you two will have stuck the dismount if it runs its course in 2 months and there's no there, then it's not an issue. But I think you have to at least be open to the possibility. You have to avoid the self-fulfilling prophecy here. You have to be open to the possibility that even though right now it doesn't look like there's long-term potential here, you never know. There could be. I met this guy once in a bar and we hit it off, but he was going away for the summer. He didn't think I would wait for him, and it actually didn't feel like we were right for each other. We kind of didn't make sense together, and yet, 30 years later, we are still together. That summer, the first summer that we were together, we were apart because he went backpacking in Europe with friends. And we are returning to Europe 30 years later to see those same friends who are friends of mine now too, because I didn't succumb to the self-fulfilling prophecy. Even though rationally I said to myself, there's probably no long-term potential here, I was open to the possibility of long-term potential. So I think you can be rational about this and tell yourself, okay, he's moving away in 4 months. I'm not sure I would want a long-distance relationship. You can tell yourself that, but be open to the possibility that you may feel differently in 4 months if you two really hit it off, like Terry and I did. All right, that's Terry. 20 years later, I met another guy. Terry and I met another guy together, and it couldn't work out long term. There was no chance that that would work out long term. A decade later, that guy is my boyfriend, and we are still together because although we were rational about the odds, the chances, it even made us sad to think about the fact that our relationship was probably going to be a short-term relationship, and we wanted to stick that dismount and not engineer some giant conflict to burn it all down when it looked like it had to end. A decade later, we're still together because, again, although we were rational about the odds, we were open to the possibilities. So that's what I want you to be. I want you to be rational about the odds here, but open to the possibilities, to not look at this relationship and definitely commit to it having to be short term, because you may feel very differently in a couple of months. He may go home and you may want to fly out to see him every once in a while, or he may want to fly back to see you every once in a while, or his urgent family business could resolve, hopefully happily resolve. Hopefully everybody's okay. And he may come back, or you may find yourselves in the same city again. So beware the engineered conflict, beware the self-fulfilling prophecy. This episode is brought to you by Skims. Sometimes me and my husband, we work out together, okay? And since Skims started advertising on the show, I can crow about how great they are for exercise. Their stretch boxer briefs under my gym shorts give me the freedom of movement I need for working out, and they are comfortable for walking around wearing the rest of the day, and I don't feel like I'm wearing gym clothes under my clothes. Plus, they never lose their shape. They never ride up. They are so comfortable, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying so. Terry looks devastatingly hot in his. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know the Lovecast sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and choose our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims.com.
Hey, Dan and everybody. I'm a 25-year-old bisexual female, and my partner is a 27-year-old man. I have a little problem, and I'm wondering if you have any advice. Normally, I don't have a problem having an orgasm with my partner. He's very good at giving head and is not only not scared of using toys to aid in my pleasure, but loves it. But sometimes it takes me longer to come, usually in my luteal phase. My partner always tells me or almost asks me if I'm ready for his cum, kind of asking if I've orgasmed yet. And if I haven't, I'll beg for more. Herein lies the problem. I get really in my head about trying to come, and I hate to say it, but I literally hear your advice in my head about not thinking too much about orgasming, but more so focusing on pleasure, but still thinking about coming, just trying to find a balance. I also told my partner to be extra vocal with those good girls and, good little sluts and stuff like that, so I can't focus on what I'm thinking, which somehow I feel like a bother when I'm taking long, despite him telling me it's not a problem and he's happy to oblige. Is there any more advice that you can give to me or other people in my situation to feel like they're trying to get out of their head?
First, a book recommendation from a guest here, a frequent guest on the Savage Lovecast, Dr. Lori Brodo's terrific book, Better Sex Through Mindfulness, How Women Can Cultivate Desire. Worth reading or having read to you. There is an audiobook available. There were two things, though, about your question that kind of leapt out at me. The first being your partner checking in with you to make sure that you've already come before he comes, asking you if you're ready for his come. And, all right, so sometimes you come, but you climax so subtly that your partner doesn't know whether you've climaxed or not. And yeah, I guess also your partner is of the school of thought that after his orgasm, it kind of has to be over, or everything's building toward his orgasm, or he's one of those guys who the refractory period falls on him like a piano dropped from the 10th floor, and he's just flattened after his orgasm and can't possibly keep going if he came and you didn't. And that requires him to stay in the game, to keep eating that pussy, to keep holding on to that magic wand as you grind. And both of those things kind of, I think, are easily addressed. You say that you say that your boyfriend keeping up a steady stream of good girls and you're a slut, that can keep you from getting lost in your head where you're trapped with the sound of my voice. I don't even want to hear the sound of my voice when I'm having sex and I'm getting close to orgasm. I can see why that would be distracting and derailing potentially. But you say you want to communicate, you say that helps, and yet you're not telling him you're getting close to coming. You guys aren't talking or giving each other as much feedback as you could be giving, either verbally or physically. He doesn't know, again, whether you've climaxed or not when you two are having sex and he's getting close to the, my favorite point, the point of orgasmic inevitability himself. While his orgasm may be inevitable after he hits the point of orgasmic inevitability, it ain't inevitable that the sex has to stop or his efforts have to cease or halt after he comes. It's really rare, in my experience with other men, for both guys to come simultaneously. Usually one guy comes and then the other guy gets to come, is assisted on his approach to orgasm. The other guy who hit the point and passed the point of orgasmic inevitability and had that inevitable orgasm sticks with it until the other guy hits that point and has that orgasm. I don't think it's too much to ask of your boyfriend, even if he's going to come, not to put pressure on you always to be the one who comes first, and then for sex not to always be over if he came first. You can and should keep going. And if you're curious how to stay out of your head, I'm just inferring here that if he doesn't know, can't always tell when you've come, that you aren't engaged in the kind of sustained, dirty talk, sexual patter that would, A, help you get there, help you get off, keep you from getting stuck in your head about whether you're going to come fast enough or soon enough, but also give him the kind of information he needs so that when he's getting closer, he knows whether you've come already or whether, if he hasn't hit the point of orgasmic inevitability yet, he might want to pull back and delay the point of orgasmic inevitability a little bit longer for himself until he gets you off. If, again, he's the kind of guy whose refractory period is kind of like a piano dropped on his head from 10 floors up, and he just can't possibly keep going and focus on your pleasure after his orgasm. Generally, I think that's bullshit. Not my experience of men, but also not anything that I would tolerate from a man. So in addition to reading Dr. Lori Broda's book, in addition to initiating and sustaining dirty talk through sex to keep you out of your head and keep each other informed about where you're at and your pleasure and what has and hasn't happened, don't put up with that. If he comes and you haven't come, he has to keep going. This episode is sponsored by OneSkin. Aging comes for us all, but you can keep your skin healthy as you get older with OneSkin's topical supplements. Founded by an all-woman team of scientists, OneSkin is the first and only skin longevity company to target cellular senescence, a key hallmark of aging, with their proprietary OS1 peptide. OS1 is scientifically proven to decrease lines and wrinkles, boost hydration, and help with the thinning skin that often comes with age. OneSkin believes the purpose of skincare is not just to improve how you look, but to optimize your skin's biology at the cellular level so it's more resilient to the aging process. They've got over 4,000 5-star reviews for their full line of face, body, sun, and travel-sized products. And for a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off using the code LOVECAST when you check out oneskin.co. With OneSkin, your skin can stay healthy, strong, and hydrated at every age. Get started today. If you don't already have a skincare routine, you need one. Get started today, right now, with 15% off using code LOVECAST at oneskin.co. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code LOVECAST. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show. Let them know the Lovecast sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you.
Hey, Dan. I am a 42-year-old straight-ish woman living in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've been in a relationship with somebody for the last 3 or so years, and we recently sort of elevated our connection from friends with benefits / situationship to primary partners, in an open situation. So that's been kind of an interesting transition. But there's a funny thing in our sex life that I'm curious about, which is we do have a really great time. We have a really strong connection, and in a lot of ways things feel really good. But he doesn't come, and it's been a thing. We've talked about it a little bit on and off, and probably over the course of the last few years, he's maybe come a handful of times since with me in the same room as him. I try not to take it personally because he assures me that it's not anything about me. But I'm wondering if there's any advice you have, any thoughts about why that might be, anything I could do to assist him. He seems to really enjoy it when I give him head, and, he stops me pretty quickly. He'll go down on me for a long time in order to make me come, and that's been great. But I think it kind of distracts him from getting pleasure and from reaching a climax. So I don't know. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about why somebody wouldn't be able to come, because I'm so used to men being way faster comers.
There are two questions here, two possible questions, two things that could be going on. And unfortunately, I'm not the guy who knows the answer to these questions. Only the guy that you're dating, that you're seeing now, that you've gone from situationship to friends with benefits, or friends with benefits to situationship to relationship. Only he knows the answer. Maybe why he wouldn't be able to come is the question. Why aren't you able to come? Maybe he has delayed ejaculation syndrome. Maybe he has a bad case of death grip syndrome. Maybe there's a way in which he stimulated himself for years and years and years before he even got started with partnered sex, and he requires that form of stimulation, whatever that form of stimulation might be, and it's too protracted or involved to burden you with. And so he gets off, enjoys sex with you, and then has his orgasm off later by himself, remembering all the crazy fun things that he got to do with you. And so you're contributing to his orgasm ultimately by creating the pleasure that he recalls or is still enjoying when he has his orgasm off by himself. Some guys with delayed ejaculation syndrome, it can take them 2 hours to come of focused, intense, continuous stimulation in order to climax. And it just might be that even after all the years you've been together, he's too self-conscious to share that with you, and he doesn't expect that from you. Going down on you for an hour is a pleasure for him. He's happy to do it. It gets you off. But he knows that if you start sucking his dick with the expectation of his dick staying in your mouth until it gets you off, that you're going to not actually be able to suck his dick for 2 full fucking hours, if that is indeed the question, the right question to be asking. Why aren't you able to come with me? The other question is, why don't you want to come with me? And maybe he doesn't want to come with you because there's some big other kink here that animates him, that arouses and excites him. Something else going on in his erotic imagination that he hasn't shared with you. Maybe he's into orgasm denial. Maybe he identifies as a pleaser like Lachlan in White Lotus season 3, and he wants to be there for you and do for you, and that's an important part of his erotic imagination and inner life and outer life, and he wants to serve, and that's what turns him on. Now, you're allowed to say to him, really turn me on if you came with me every once in a while. But if you're having fun and he's having fun, yeah. You do, though, want to be a considerate, attentive, conscientious, solicitous sex partner. And so every once in a while, I do think that you should say to him, hey, look, Not nagging, not demanding an answer, not saying anything has to change, but just want you to know, just re-upping here, that anytime that you want to get off, anytime that when we're having sex, you want to have an orgasm too, I'm happy to do whatever it takes, however long it takes. And I think, yeah, even 3 years in or however many years now, you have a right to ask for an explanation that you might not get. If it's some secret kink that he's really ashamed of, he might have a really hard time sharing that even at 3 or 4 years. But it also could be that he doesn't know or can't articulate the reason why he has difficulty coming during partnered sex. All of this advice I've just given you assumes the fact that wasn't actually introduced into evidence. He is aroused, right? He gets hard with you. You would have mentioned if you guys are having sex and he's never coming, also never getting hard, he gets hard. He's obviously aroused. Inferring that because you would have included that in your question if that wasn't the case. So he's having fun. He's enjoying himself. This is pleasing to him, and he keeps coming back for more. You can take that yes for an answer. And hopefully one day he'll be able to give you some other answers. Like, what's in it for him? What is it about sex with you that he enjoys so much that he keeps coming back, even if he's not having what most men and most women would want to have or want to get out of a sexual encounter, which is a climax. And it may be that, again, he's climaxing later on his own, thinking about you, and you are, setting off an avalanche or, getting that ball rolling for him in a way where you're really important to his sense of sexual gratification and really central to his sex life and sex pleasure, but not in a way that's easily recognized, not in the way that most of us would recognize, which is that your lover comes with and because of you and in you or on you, not later remembering you. But that is how some people's arousal and works, how some people's climaxes happen for them. Could be the case with him. Again, I don't know. Only he knows. And he's not saying. Every once in a while, you should gently ask.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Nancy. Hi, tech savvy folks. I'm a cis bi woman calling you from Madison. Hello. I have a really good sex life with my cis hetero flexible male partner of 4 years. Great news. Our sex life is really good. Very hot, very fun, very intimate, very sexy, lots of good things. While it's still good, we want to keep having sexual adventures. So one of the things that we want to do is go to a sex party. We haven't been to one before, either one of us, separately or together. We want to talk about it in advance, establish some boundaries and some sort of hopes and maybe some expectations, but keep that balance with the fact that we're going to this place where there's going to be other people and we can't control them and control what they do. So if you have any guidelines there on, how firmly we should be setting boundaries or what sort of things we should talk about to make sure that we're going to have fun, but also really, sort of protect our relationship and each other's feelings, would love to hear them. What should I wear? What should I wear to this party? We're not planning on doing like a BDSM party or a leather and lace party, right? There's no specific theme. And I want to feel like sexy and hot and confident, but also like I'm like fit in the vibe. You never want to be the most fancy dressed person at a party, but you also don't want to be the most underdressed person at a party. You want to fit in. And I just have no guess what that looks like. And it's really hard to find that out online. I've tried and really to no avail. I also don't have a clear picture of what's going to happen once my clothes start coming off, right? Do I just hold them in my hand? Do they just end up heaped up on the floor? Is there like a locker situation? Do I put those same clothes back on when it's time to leave? Or should I bring, like a sweatsuit, like an easy slip-on outfit to throw some clothes on and get out of there? I just really feel like I have no idea. And because I have no idea about any of this one is really sticking with me.
All right, what to do, what to expect when you're expecting to go to a sex party for the first time. You will leave in the clothes you arrived in. You will wear whatever it is that you might want to wear at the party under the sweatpants and sweatshirt or the street clothes that you arrive in. At most sex parties, commercial or otherwise, there will be a clothes check because people aren't showing up at the sex party in lingerie or wearing their fetish gear on the subway or the bus to get to the sex party. People change at the sex party. And there will be places for you to stash or store your clothes. If there are lockers or clothes check your valuables. Don't carry them around. And then when you decide, if you decide to take off whatever it is you're wearing so that you can fuck, just find a corner, find a shelf, find a spot to tuck it. Or wear things that you can keep on and fuck if you want to fuck. All right. Boundaries. You say that you and your partner have talked about boundaries, hope, expectations. Yeah, you can't control other people or what they do, but you have to be really firm about what your boundaries are. I hope your conversations with your partner are not vague. It's not, this is what the mood we're going for is. This is what I hope might happen. No, you need to have a very specific and detailed conversation about what is and is not on the menu. This is what we can do or will do or might do. Here are the things that will not happen. We are not doing X, Y, and Z. And even if in the moment we're tempted to do X, Y, and Z, even if in the moment we sense both of us might want to try X, Y, or Z, we're not going to reopen negotiations at that first sex party. That first sex party, you got to keep it safe and sacred and stay within the boundaries that you agreed to in advance. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're not going to do. And the things we're going to do, these are only things that we will do if we're both feeling it. And it's fine. Most people at their very first sex party, it is fine if you just go to soak in the vibe, to get a feel for it. If you go and observe or you go just to play with each other, that's fine. If anybody else at the party approaches you when your clothes are off or when you and your partner are being sexual with each other, they do not get to touch you without your consent. They do not get to impose on you whatever their expectations might be or hopes might be for being intimate with other guests or intimate with you. And you should be just as clear about your boundaries with other people at the party as you have been with each other in advance of the party. Use your words. Somebody comes up to you and says, "Do you want to do X with me?" Say no if the answer is no. Say, "This is our first time and we're just playing with each other, but happy to watch other people play." And be really, really clear. And don't worry, don't let it inhibit you that other people might get butt sore. If you're at the party and they thought that meant you are on the menu and they don't get to have a taste, if somebody walks away from that butt sore, that's their problem. And so if they don't get to fuck you, you just have to say, "You don't get to fuck me." And any experienced people at the sex party, if it's not their first sex party, they'll know just to pivot to somebody else who does want to fuck them. One last tip. You can email the organizers of the sex party, ask them about what people will be wearing. You can also wait for a theme night when they say it's lace, it's leather, it's fetish, it's this, it's that, and you'll have a clearer sense about what to wear. You can also bring more than one outfit. You can bring a backpack. Have fun. All right, time for listener feedback. First up, a few comments about last week's show from the very lively comment threads at savage.love. There were lots of comments about the trans man who doesn't want to date bi guys because they treat him like a woman, doesn't want to date other trans men because they're too competitive, but every gay guy he hooks up with has a meltdown after sex about losing their gold star gay card after sleeping with him. Says in Contempo, "I think it's pretty shitty that the guys the trans man caller hooks up with process these feelings at him. Even if you have conflicted feelings about consensual and fun sex after the fact, maybe shut the fuck up about that inner conflict to the person you hooked up with. They are not the audience for your personal processing. Talk to your friends, your diary, or a therapist." Says Phenomenon, "The pattern of behavior the trans male caller describes stretches credulity. No gay man ever backs out. They're all enthusiastic and have a fantastic time, then feel icky about losing their gold star status. That seems like the sort of thing one would likely run into eventually, but every time and always in the same way. The obvious answer would be not to hook up with gold star gays, though I suspect the caller, who ruled out dating bi men and other trans men, would find some way to rule that out too." And finally, says No Cute Name, "The concept of gold star gay strikes me as being rooted in misogyny. After all, how many people have had sex with someone that they're not really attracted to for whatever reason? Presumably, for all sorts of reasons, it happens that gay men occasionally have sex with women. So what? They know they're gay. They know that they'd only want to have sex with men." Fair point. Lots of people have sex with people they're not attracted to for all sorts of different reasons. And I do think the way some young gay people these days use gold star gay, it does smack of misogyny, kind of an expression of disgust with being anywhere near a vagina. Gotta say, though, meant something different, landed different, hit different 30, 40, 50 years ago in the era of compulsory heterosexuality. A gold star gay when I was a teenager was someone who hadn't succumbed to the pressure to get a girlfriend to hide inside, or a wife. A gay man who didn't build a closet for himself out of the bodies of women he lied to with his words, lied to with his dick, was rare. Hence, gold star. It wasn't about disgust with female bodies, which is how it comes across now, yes, but the strength that some gay men showed resisting compulsory heterosexuality back in the day, and the impulse to cover for it, to hide, to build a closet for themselves out of women's bodies. All right, for more listener comments, go to savage.love, click on the latest Lovecast or column or struggle session, and scroll down to the bottom where you will find my readers and listeners sharing thoughtful comments, and sometimes every once in a while, better advice for a caller or a reader than I gave. Check out the comments, join the convo now at savage.love. And now, some of the voicemails Savage Love listeners left on our answering machine this week.
Hi, this is a response call for episode 968 for the woman who was new to poly and kept getting hurt when various poly connections would end things. My advice to you would be to try dating multiple people at the same time, because from your call, it sounded like you're just kind of dating monogamously, but also having your primary partner at home. But if you date multiple people at the same time, then you won't have as much time to invest in one particular person, which might help you to not get too attached to one specific person. And then the advantage also is that if that person decides to end things, it's really going to cushion the blow if you have other things already on the go.
This is actually a response for your conversation with Katie Simon, which I thought was so important. So cue to all you non-Magnum subscribers, now is a fantastic time to sign up. Everybody should be listening to this. And I myself, as a sexual assault survivor, I think it's really great to hear it talked about, that we all have different ways of coping with it, different things that we need. And a lot of times, unfortunately, we may not know what it even is that we need. But I do think it is a very common thread that no matter how good of a place we are in with it, there can be these moments where it just creeps up while we're doing something fun. We really don't want it to. I think a lot of people have the tendency in that moment to try and push through it, which may not always be the best idea. So having people just be aware of bodily cues is absolutely incredible. Like, you see somebody freeze, just that might be a moment to check in and just be like, hey, do you want to keep going? So yeah, reading bodily cues, matching what you're seeing, and developing systems with partners of a little tap or whatever else if you just need a pause when you can't use your voice is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Katie. Can't wait to read your book. And thank you, Dan, for having them on.
Hello, Dan, Nancy, and the Tech Savvy at-riskies. I'm calling in response to the trans dude whose sexual partners have been getting the ick. I completely agree with Dan here. These guys have no taste. As a cis gay man, I think trans dudes are extremely hot. And I know you're waiting for your bottom surgery, but honestly, a vagina sounds logistically so much easier. You've said it, IBS is a thing, and vaginas, they're self-lubricating. That's amazing. So yeah, ignore these guys.
And we're going to leave it there. Got a question for me? Go to savage.love/askdan to record and upload your question directly onto our website. Or you can make a voice memo and email it to us at q@savage.love. Or you can call us on our landline at 206-302-2064 and leave us a message on our answering machine. The call for submissions for Hump 2026 has gone out. This is your reminder that now is the time to get to work on your Hump submission for next year's Hump Film Festivals. Got a sexy idea, a crazy idea, a funny idea, kinky, queer, beautiful, joyful idea? Shoot it, edit it, submit it. Submissions for the Hump 2026 Film Festival are due this December. And yes, every film that makes it into the film festival, every filmmaker gets a cut of every ticket sold. Plus, there's $10,000 in audience awards up for grabs. So if you need something to do besides doom scrolling, how about making some fun porn with your friends and lovers? Start filming now. Go to humpfilmfest.com/submit for all the details. Follow me on Blue Sky at Dan Savage. Follow me on Instagram and Threads at Dan Savage. Follow Randy Rainbow on Instagram and Threads at Randy Rainbow. Subscribe to Randy Rainbow's YouTube channel. And to watch all his videos, order all of his books, and order tickets to see Randy live on tour this summer, go to randyrainbow.com. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and Nancy and the tech-savvy at-risk youth. We will all be back at you next week on an installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thank you for downloading.